both in control against Artosis debate and keep going back and forth.
That'll be easy.
More field stabilized. When I turn up the heat. We gotta move.
It is June 12th, 2013, and this is State of the Game. My name is JP McDaniel. Joining me today on the show is iNcontroL, Todd, and Khaldor. Jeff, thanks for coming on the show. It's always glad to have you here. I'm always glad to have you here.
Yeah, man, me too. Thanks for having me.
Todd, how's the practice been going? I know you've been practicing pretty hard, just from talking to you on Skype the past couple of days.
Not very good, if you must ask.
Standard.
But I try to do what I can, and we'll see how it turns out. Because practice, you can play bad in practice and still do well in tournaments. So who knows? Maybe a miracle happens and I start winning.
Oh, Todd, never change. Never change. Khaldor, thank you for joining us. I know you just wrapped up the WCS finals, and I know it's like, is it 5 or 6 a.m.? What ungodly hour did I make you get up to do this?
6 right now.
But you're usually up, you like don't sleep, right? This is good time for you?
Yeah, I'm waking up early anyway, so that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Perfect. No nerd in Khaldor. He's actually just a fake nerd. He gets up at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. So let's just jump straight to the topic at hand here. WCS finals have wrapped up for season 1. Season 2 should be underway here pretty soon for all the other leagues. And let's talk about it. I want to kind of focus on the games first because obviously there's a lot to be said and a lot that already has been said about everything else that went on this past weekend. So we'll just start with the finals, and I want to go to Todd here because I know he's going to give me a good response. What did you think of the finals there, Innovation and SOS, with Innovation taking that 4-0?
I actually didn't watch the games live because it was very, very late, and I had a bad feeling about SOS versus Sulky already, so I went to bed around the time the game was starting, because I don't like to watch Protoss get stomped. And then I couldn't sleep for some reason. I had insomnia, so I laid in bed for a while, and then I came back, and Sulky was up 2-0, and I was like, oh my god, okay, I just watched the last game. And then he wins 2 games. No, it was the other way around. SOS was up 2 games, and I'm like, how is this possible? So I watched a little bit, and then he wins. Sulky wins 2 games, and he makes Void Race look very silly, look like it's the shittiest strategy ever. And I'm like, what's going on? And then Belcher Vestige, back where it all began, some crappy cannon rush, followed by some weird-ass game, and SOS ends up winning. So I was pretty surprised, happily surprised. I wanted to see SOS versus a Terran, but yeah, it was just too late. So at this time, I finally gave up and went to bed. Then I wake up, and I see 4-0, and I just tweeted asking if the VODs were worth watching, and a lot of people were like, this is not going to boost your confidence, man. The 4th game was really good, so I just checked out the 4th game, and yeah, I think it was pretty okay of a game, but yeah, I didn't watch the other ones.
Khaldor, did you cast these? I'm not sure who casted what, because there was...
we casted group stage, quarterfinals, and then from the semifinals on, Nick and Dan took it.
Okay, but I assume you watched it, correct?
Yeah, I was then in Jamshil and watched it actually at the venue, like for the finals at least, and the other things I watched that at home. So I personally was actually surprised that the mirror matches that we had in the quarterfinals were kind of entertaining. That was actually really interesting. But the finals itself, of course, I mean, that was really, really one-sided and not much to say about that. I mean, Innovation just stomped. For me, the biggest story was really having the semifinals with MVP versus Innovation.
Right. We'll get to that right after this. Jeff, your thoughts on the finals here between SOS and Innovation?
Well, I guess since we'll spend more time on the semifinals in a minute, I guess just to touch on Khaldor's point, I think it's kind of one of the rare opportunities at this day and age that we can give a tip of the hat to Blizzard, because I think the mirror matchups are at their most exciting stage that they've ever been in StarCraft 2 history, in my opinion, across the board. I think TVT's always been a pretty good matchup, but finally it looks like ZVZ and probably more interestingly PvP have become matchups worth watching, and I think this semifinals kind of showed that. But as far as the finals concerned, it's not too far off from what you've heard my friends here say, like, the 4-0 was a beatdown, and that oftentimes happens in finals, so that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but it's like expected. I guess part of the problem for me was that SOS is like the most hyped Protoss right now, and if you watch him play anybody but Innovation for the most part, I do agree with Todd as well. The PvZ series against Sulky was quite disappointing in terms of gameplay as well, but like his PvT is legit. He's like sick, crazy good. Capable of doing 2 base all-ins, cheese, but then also has some of the most crisp execution of like just standard macro play that I've seen right now. He very much so like he like speaks to the Kespa training style as far as I'm concerned. Like I can see a robot there that's just like a solid StarCraft, but the finals were bad. Innovation was just significantly better. And it's kind of funny because for everyone, they're like, yeah, Game 4 was really good. I think Game 4 was good in contrast to how bad Game 1 through 3 was. And then also he used Tempest against Terran, which is like interesting. So people are like, whoa, so cool. But they didn't really work. And he died pretty hard. So I know I sound like a bitter Bailey, but that game, standalone, not great. A part of that series, 2 thumbs up. Or 1 thumb. Nope, 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up.
I got to be that guy and ask this: is SOS who is the best Protoss in the world right now? Is that SOS, or is he just the most creative one that people aren't sure how to play against yet? And this goes towards iNcontroL and Todd.
I mean, with his second place finish at WCS and how he's doing in Pro League and stuff like that, you definitely have to give him a nod. Rain and Parting have slid in the sense that they're not winning everything like they did for about 2 months. But I don't know that SOS is the best, but I think he's definitely in the top 3. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer. I guess there is no clear best Protoss because who's won the massive tournament recently other than Hero winning?
WCS NA.
Yeah, which is like pretty good, but not. I wouldn't put it anywhere near a GSL or WCS Finals championship.
Todd, what about you?
Pretty much like Jeff said, there is no Protoss that really stands out. Some of them, they have some good performances for some time, but other than that, they don't do really well, and we don't see much of them either. Like, we only see them in a few games in WCS, and that's it. There hasn't been that many international tournaments these days. So we actually see more Protosses play in Pro League than anywhere else. So I can tell you some of the Protoss that do well in Pro League right now, SOS being one of them as well. Jungbi also is doing very good. So
he just qualified for Code. Was it Code A or Challenger? What did Jungbi just qualify? I forget. Was it Premier or Challenger?
I think Premier.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jungbi went up to Premier, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he was in the up and downs, and I think he made it through. We casted so many that I'm not 100% sure here.
Yeah,
but
I mean, there's a billion matches each week. Okay, it's Premier.
I think it was Premier.
Cool. Yeah, that's what chat's saying as well. So continue on, Todd. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, there is nobody that really stands out. I guess the one you always go back to will be Rain, but even him these days, he's been losing a little bit more. So, but when Rain plays, every Protoss should be watching because he's really like the standard Protoss who will play super solid and show you good things that you can use. When you watch SOS play, he plays really well, but like using his style or understanding what he does, it kind of looks like freestyle. Hero too sometimes. It just looks like they do whatever goes through their head during a game, and they just make it work because they know so many tricks or rules or things to do and what not to do that we don't know. Whereas Rain is just super structured. You can write down a Rain build order through the 9th minute and then execute it. Well, not as well as him, but almost as well, and you're going to be successful with it.
Well, I think that one of the bullets I had was that the semifinals were kind of the best matches out of this tournament, and from the amount of times you guys referenced them in the opening question of the show, I think you guys would probably agree. So MVP versus Innovation, for me, was the most exciting series. It had the most storyline in it. MVP, of course, everyone was cheering for him going up against this dominant player in Innovation, and I felt like the series did not disappoint. So, Khaldor, what did you think of MVP versus Innovation?
I thought it was amazing, and if you would have asked me before the finals if MVP is able to make it into the semifinals and suddenly take 2 games of Innovation at best of 5, I would have called you crazy. But that was like so well done. I mean, I was cheering for him the entire time, and I was really hoping for him to take the game and suddenly be in the finals here again. I would not have been surprised after the performance that we saw earlier. But that was really something. I mean, Innovation has been dominating every matchup. He was dominant in the group. He demolished Alive. and then MVP is able to take 2 games from him. I was really amazed by that, and that was for me the best series that we had in the entire final set.
What did the Protoss think of the TVT series? Todd, did you even watch it? Just to be frank.
I glanced a few times at the games, and they
Sure.
seemed like they were good games, but didn't watch entirely. But maybe I should watch it because I heard that those were really good games. And by the way, we didn't really talk about this, but for GG, he's supposed to have the sickest TVT.
Yeah.
And
What?
then he met MVP.
Yeah, but can I just inject something here? He's supposed
No.
to have the sickest TVT, and like 80%
No
of
talking,
the TVT games
Khaldor,
that he won
at all.
were against B teamers from Europe. Not really B teamers, but against players that didn't really make it far there. So that statistic is always quoted, but if you actually
Wow,
look at it,
Khaldor. Never
it's not
forget where
really
You
well.
heard it here first. His TVT is a fraud because he only played against Europeans, the bad players.
No, it's not only against Europeans,
Khaldor.
but he's like 10-0 in best of threes, and 5 of those best of threes are against French players that haven't really accomplished a lot in the last like few months.
Now you're getting
So-
personal with Todd.
Wow.
Khaldor.
I'm sorry, I'm
God.
just going for the truth here.
And as a German, he knows what it means to go up against the French. So actually, a couple of
It comes
You're
natural.
lucky. You're lucky. I'm the smallest guy on this show.
Oh God. Oh,
Uh,
God.
So I have so many jokes that I want to make, but I feel like when I'm paired with Todd, I don't know that I can make too many because then the show will get written off as Protoss bitching too much. But I guess
Leave that to me.
Todd does that by himself. Jeff.
Yeah, I know.
It's all right.
you leave that to me. I was gonna say, I actually am quite fond of watching TVT. I watch a lot of finals in tournaments, so I've grown used to watching it. But I thought MVP Innovation was an amazing story because Innovation going into the tournament was the prediction by everyone to win. He was the juggernaut, the powerhouse. He got robbed of a WCS Korea finals, and this was, you know, his redemption. And he didn't look like he was going to slow down. But MVP is like Superman after he had his back broken. Like he's not
Yeah.
supposed to be here. It's amazing that he is at all, but yet he was able to do what he has always done. And I think actually an interesting thing is that if he's on the other side of the bracket against SOS and Solkey, two guys who, again, I think everyone would be like, well, obviously MVP gets blanked. I bet he wins those series. I bet he's in the finals against Innovation where it goes down to the wire in an excellent TVT. Because that's just what MVP does. So it was a great series. It was a cool storyline because MVP, in case people didn't know the level of this, he has such nerve damage in his arm.
I wanted to say this as well, but I think you're about to say it. Are you pulling this from the lounge interview that he was in?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, because this is an important fact.
He has such incredible nerve damage in his clicking arm that he doesn't actually know when he double clicks. He actually has to listen for it. So when he plays at home, or actually it's when he clicks. I think when he double clicks, sometimes his arm just shuts off, so he can't actually double click. But he doesn't even know when he clicks because he can't feel it, so he has to listen for it. But in the booth, he's wearing sound-canceling headphones, so
Yeah.
he actually can't hear when he's clicking. He's just kind of going off of that's what his brain's telling his hand to do,
Right.
which is actually fucking insane. It's
It
actually
is.
bomb.
Every time he clicks, he said the nerve from his hand to his neck just gives him like an insane amount of pain.
I mean, some players
Just
in their
like-
careers have complained about like room temperature. MVP, zero complaints. Can't feel his arm. That's fucking insane. That's awesome.
Oh man.
You're lucky you play Protoss, Jeff. And you're so big. I'll let this one slide.
But that was
No,
cool.
it-
And then on the other side, just real quick, the Solkey SOS, like we already talked about it a little bit. It was okay, but that game 5 was really disappointing because it was like,
Yeah. God.
he's on the resurgence. Then Cannon Rush, and we're all
It's just
like,
like,
oh,
fuck, man. All those other games are so good, and it's like Game 5 Cannon Rush.
yeah.
Yeah, but I can't believe that he went for that hatch first. We saw that Ken Rush so many times on this map by now, and I think it the first time was in Cordes. I'm not quite sure with that position, but everyone talked about it. Oh my god, this is such a cool position to Ken Rush. I can't believe he went for that strategy on that map.
I
But do you
think
know
that
the story
happened.
behind?
Well, go ahead,
do-
Todd. Go on.
Do you know the story behind this? Like, did you talk to them at all? Like, I'm sure there is like some sick metagame involved there. Like, he cannon rushes every single time in practice, and now Sulky thought he always does it, so I'm gonna expect it, and he's not gonna do
Double
it, and
bluff.
then he did it, like something like that. I'm sure there is some sick story behind this, because like it doesn't make sense that Stolky again will go for the hatch first and then let himself get cannon like this.
That's a good
I
question.
don't know. I didn't
I bet
really
they
talk
don't
to them.
practice it.
It's just
I bet
like
it could be the opposite. They never see the
that's why I
cannon
was
rush.
so surprised. I mean, he was asking for it basically. He was on his knees begging, "Please do it."
And then he didn't handle it well. That was the weird part. Like some Zergs,
Yeah.
like I'm actually not to make the comparison between Sulky and Katz, but Katz is a guy that I'm terrified of cannon rushing because he's got like 50,000 answers to it and he's like excited about every one of them. Whereas Sulky was like doing partial defenses, like 2 spines, all my drones. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, the hatch finished. All right, I'll just take my 3rd. And it's like, whoa, you can't do that. You have to go hard one way or the other. You have to really defend or you have to really not defend and either leave it as an empty hatch or sack the hatch or something.
Todd, what do you think of the SOS Sulky match, kind of in general, outside of the fifth map? Sorry.
First of all, Katz is ahead of the meta game a lot of the time, I think, and like I don't mean that like he understands the game like 1,000 times better than other people, but like there is things that he understands about matchups. I think in particular versus Protoss that are different than what other players do. Like for example, remember in Wings of Liberty, is proxy hatch in base versus cannon rush, or even now like. He was one of the first players to play this swarm host style where you turtle and you make spores and stuff, and then you see Koreans start doing it, and they're like, even Stefano started doing it randomly during a tournament, and he was like not very good at it, and then slowly he improved. But Katz has been doing this for a very long time, and he does it super well. So I think the strength of Katz is that he figures stuff out earlier than other people, and then later on they end up kind of copying him. But yeah, in that series, it was just so weird that Sulky went for that and then ended up getting cannons. Coming back to that, what's the question?
just the other maps for Sulky SOS. Was there a highlight for you, or a particular moment or anything?
Sulky, he made this Void Ray, this mass Void. Like everybody was talking about this mass Void Ray style, and I never played because I find it like super boring. You just sit in your base, you make Void Rays, you wait for the Zerg to attack, and then you press E, and you watch as your opponent's army melts. Like. What's
yeah,
the
it
point?
works. Ask Alicia.
yeah, I know. So I pretty much never do it. I started doing it very recently to experience a little bit with it, but like, Sulky made this strategy look like shit. Like he played so well. Game 3 and 4, he completely destroyed SOS, and after that I thought, well, I guess he's coming back. It was funny, by the way, because when I started watching, remember I told you it was 2-0 for SOS, and then Artosis was like, this has to be a victory for SOS, and then. I tweeted immediately.
He did look.
The Artosis curse was just.
He did that for MVP. He was like, "MVP's gonna win here, guys," and I immediately turned it off and went to sleep because I knew he was not gonna win. I knew he was not gonna win.
It's powerful. One point I want to hit on that Todd just brought up that I actually thought was really interesting is because you are actually, if you watch the streams right now, almost all the Protoss are doing this Void Ray thing. Like. There's a lot of Protoss that are closer to like 50-50 with it. Some are at like 30-70, but there's some Protoss that are like Alicia, that's like 90%, and SOS 90%. This is what they do. But I thought the Aklon Waste game was kind of cool because it was Sulky, like if his finger transformed into Idra, his middle finger, and then he held it up, it would be the middle finger of all middle fingers ever to that build because he didn't even really scout it. Like a couple of Phoenix came out, he's like, oh okay. 5 bases, double spire, 0 units, mute a corruptor. And I was like, whoa, let's see what Stargate does to that. And it got shat on. Like, Sulky was like, I know what you're doing. Give me 10 minutes. And the Protoss was like, all right, I'll have about 9 Void Rays by then. He's like, yeah, okay. It wasn't close. It was like a end of a tournament that I liked because you can't do that in a ladder game because you don't know the other guy that well. But in a tournament, sometimes you see builds like this that are just like, well, that's not even close to a real build. That's just you mind fucking the crap out of the other guy, and it was pretty funny to watch.
Then let's talk about the quarterfinals, which, of course, when that got announced, it was kind of the running. It's not even really a joke. It's just the truth is that it was all mirrors and that people weren't going to be too excited for it. And the matches, I mean, they 3-1, 3-0. 3-1, 3-0. Like it wasn't very competitive. Was there a favorite of those matches for anyone on the show?
Yeah, definitely. Sulky Roro. Most of the that was a really entertaining ZVZ. I liked that a lot. Usually, I was not a fan of ZVZ, especially in Wings of Liberty. Like watching it, and in Heart of the Swarm, it improved. But that series was really good. I really liked that. It had a lot of dynamic, a lot of cool strategies, very close matches as well. I felt that Alicia versus SOS and Innovation versus Alive, both of the games were basically a smackdown. But for GG MVP and especially Soul Kiroro, that was kind of cool.
I was going to make a
Jeff?
joke about liking the PvP because I'm a Protoss player, but just to tease you, Khaldor. Todd, you're selected.
It was. I only saw the PvP, so I glanced a few times. Like I said, I glanced
Jeff,
a
the
few
joke
times
was still made. The
at
joke
the
was still
GVC
made.
and then 4GG MVP and Sulky Roro. It kind of looked like they were playing a lot of Roach Hydra in many of the games. And actually, I kept looking at the stream sometimes, and then I was like, "Is this still the same game? Like they always had the same composition and stuff." So I can't tell you, but I'm sure it was high-level games. But 4GG MVP, same story. I didn't really watch except sometimes, but I heard those were sick games. So maybe I'll watch the VODs later. The thing is, usually when I prepare to cast the tournament, I try to watch as many games as I can. But no, well, if I have to cast. So now I have to play DreamHack, I have to play Home Story Cup. So I was in full practice mode only as Protoss. So I only watch Protoss games and I play lots of ladder. So yeah, that also didn't help watching these games. But yeah, Alicia SOS was, I think, a stomp, we can say it. Alicia was really unlucky in two of the games. I think he lost with Stargate versus Twilight or something. And you just have to feel really bad for one of your Protoss falling this way. So it was unfortunate and SOS played really well.
For me, I actually watched. I think I watched every series of this tournament, except I had to go back and watch the finals, ironically, which is usually it's the reverse for anyone else. But the quarterfinals for me were a bit of the same. What they're talking about. There's a couple of murders in there. Obviously, for me, the really tragic one was Alive. There's no way to spin this. He absolutely got stomped, and it just sucks because Alive is a guy that's been on the journey back up. He was a tournament winner of one of the biggest tournaments ever, and then since then he's kind of gone silent and has not returned to that kind of glory. But here he is in the top 8 of the biggest tournament to date for StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm, and that's pretty damn cool, and we're really proud of him. So it just kind of sucked that such an accomplishment for us and for him ended this way, because it wasn't like a close Alive next time. It was like a whoa, all right.
Did actually
let's
Innovation
get you out
in
of
the
there.
last game not really play the perfect game? People
Pretty
claimed
close.
that after the series, and I didn't really see it, but does anyone of you guys know?
I mean, my heart was just so broken. It was a put down. Like it was a euthanasia act. It was go to sleep, and he muffled the pillow over his face and just
Yeah, people are
Laid
confirming
back.
it was a flawless game. 0 units lost.
Really?
The only other
it def-
person I know that did that was Tyler
crazy.
versus Pain User at an MLG a long, long time ago.
No, Hero did that versus one of the FXO Terran guys
Oh, you're actually.
remember that.
I do remember that as well. I do remember
on
that.
Shatter
but
Temple.
The entire series was just scary. I felt so sorry for Life. I really love the kid, but in that series, Innovation made him look like a platinum player. That was crazy. He had
Yeah, what
no
about
chance.
SOS?
yep.
What about SOS?
If you have
Poor old
watched
man.
Innovation, no, man. If you have watched Innovation versus Alive, you know what a stomp is. I felt really sorry for Alive. The guy makes it in the round of 8, and then he's like, basically, damn, I got Innovation, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
I like
must have definitely
making it
sucked.
out of his group was already very impressive because with Solky, Tielo, and Stefano, it was already super hard for him to be able to make it. But he lost his first match to Solky and then he beat Stefano and Tielo, so that's pretty good still. But yeah, I think versus Innovation right now, there's not many people who can really stand up to him. And by that I mean only Solky, maybe Flash.
Well, let's talk about the groups here. I'll put on my slasher mask and just focus on the foreigners for a second. TLO going 1-2, 2-5 map score. Stefano going 0-2, 1-4 map score, and Demaga going 0-2, 1-4 map score. Is this about what you guys expected?
I'm always a hopeless optimist, so actually no. I went into it once again thinking that some of these guys were going to do better. group stage is kind of TLO stomping ground. Usually that's like where the super TLO shows up, but unfortunately the Koreans in that group are too strong.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone predicted Sulky to just win that group flat out no matter what happened. So that wasn't the big surprise there. But Todd, what do you think about the foreigners, the true foreigners in this event?
DMAGA got like the sickest group ever. Not much to do when, I guess, he lost to Roro first, which is perfectly acceptable, and then he lost to Revival. It's acceptable too, but I do think he could have won, and he lost just 2-1, so...
Right.
Yes and no. I guess they could do well, but he barely lost. And then TLO and Stefano met each other in the first match, which is really sad, because we had only 3 Europeans there, and then 2 of them met in the first match. So obviously one of them had to lose, and then after that they both lost to Revival. I'm not sure what to say, with TLO losing... well, somebody else. Yeah, TLO lost to Solke in the winners match. Just tough luck. I wish they would have been spread differently in the groups. Like definitely not 2 Europeans in the same group. Then maybe we would have had Stefano versus some Korean Terran that he could beat. That would have been interesting.
Just for curiosity's sake, how was that decided? Was that decided by seeding coming from where you finished in the other WCS regionals, or do you know, Khaldor?
I think they had draws.
Was it just a random draw?
I don't know, but as far as I know, they had draws.
Huh.
I think so. I remember there being draws.
Yeah,
But
I
I'm
heard
sure
that
was before.
There was a group selection of some kind. I remember that being like announced and then immediately being up on Reddit. And I think it was random.
Gotcha.
the winner of each region were in separate groups, and then since Korea was hosting,
They got 2.
their first 2 players got spread out. Then after that, I don't know how they decided.
Gotcha. Khaldor, your thoughts on the foreigners here in this event?
I didn't cast Group A, so I didn't see too many of the games. I was more focused on the Group D with Dimaga. And I was actually like, I felt so sorry for him because he actually had good chances versus Roro as well. He took against Revival one of the maps that he lost against Roro, and he went for this Ultralisk style that he used, and it was something that Roro immediately countered with Swarm Hosts. And I talked to Dimaga a little bit after the games, and he was, I said like, I can't believe that he threw that game away because he had a massive lead and he was so angry with himself. It was actually crazy. He said like, you can't believe how angry I am that I actually lost that series. And I felt if he wins the game 2 against Roro, then he has a good chance actually in the best of 3 because his CVZ is pretty solid. And it didn't really show, but I feel in the first game or in the games that he played against Roro, he was actually a little bit nervous. I just love that we had this clash of styles, that we had suddenly him going into Ultralisk Brood Lord against Swarm Host, but in the game against Roro, for some reason, he got nervous and attacked too soon. But he had such a massive lead in the game, I couldn't believe that Roro was able to come back.
Ultralists lose to Swarm Host?
Ultralisk lose to Swarm Host, yeah.
Swarm
if you go
Host
up
Roach?
against them without
How?
anything,
What do you mean how? Are you being
they
serious?
just focus. It's so much GPS that you have, especially when you
Really?
have roaches to shield them. And the Ultralists need something. The roaches were hiding him 6 days to Sunday. The Swarm Hosts were behind it. If he had waited for maybe Infestors or even for the Broodlord composition that he used against Revival, he would have probably won it. And he
How
was
many
in
Swarm
a
Hosts
massive
are we
lead
talking?
earlier. I think we had like around 10.
Maybe 12.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's
I'm-
so much DPS, it's crazy, believe me. Like the Ultralists, they were
Yeah.
sniped instantly. It's just like he had a massive
This is all just
lead early on.
ammunition for Todd to be like, Swarm
I'm
Hearts
just
are so
I'm
bullshit.
weirded out by Todd not like fully readily accepting this. Like you must really respect Ultralisk because
No.
Swarm Hosts
Well,
give
yeah, but
free-
Swarm Host.
Swarm
I know,
Host
but-
Roach, man. Like that's
I know Swarm Hosts are very good because I have to play against them on a daily basis, and
See, I told you,
I
it's
have to play
just
against-
ammunition.
I have to play
All this.
I have to play against Ultras as well, and Ultras scare me much more. So I was trying to picture a fight Swarm Host versus
All right.
Ultras. Just imagine those Ultras cleaving those.
Try to imagine your Colossus not having range 9 lasers and instead having little arms that they punch with. And the rest of your army has little arms that they punch with too, and they don't have force fields. And now you're going up against Swarm Hosts.
Thanks. Now I can
There.
picture it.
It all makes sense.
It was weird to see because I don't think I've ever seen that. But because at first I was like, I remember when it was happening, I actually tweeted something like, "Whoa, what is this CVZ Ultras versus Swarm Hosts?" I was like, "All right, let's check it out." And then every fight was the Ultras like, how? And then they'd be like, let's get the fuck out of here. But they're already surrounded by stuff, and they're like, get out of the... Oh, and they just died.
Yeah. It was just so crazy because Dimaga had such a massive lead after he defended earlier that I thought, okay, there's no way Roro is going to win that match. And then Dimaga just throws it all away and wraps it up into a present and gives it right to Roro. And I was like, dude, why? But he was really angry with himself. He said, like, I don't know what happened, but for some reason I completely blanked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I felt a little bit sorry for him. I felt he could have done more in the group.
Well, there were definitely some good matches over the weekend, but I think the main talking point is obviously going to be what we're talking about next. And Khaldor, you've been on your soapbox already on your own YouTube, but we're definitely going to get your own thoughts here. Let's start with Jeff, because I know he really wanted to talk about just the finals in general. So, Jeff,
All right.
take it away.
So let me, this is one of those things where there's so much to say that it's hard to choose where to start from. So I'll be a little bit jumbled about this, and I do apologize. But, again, thank you to JP and Stay the Game for having me on, because there's no Inside the Game this week, and I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not going a week without talking about this. Like, it needs to be talked about a lot. That's why it's been nice, too, that Khaldor's been releasing videos, actually. I think this is your second one. Not necessarily on WCS in general, but I've seen a couple of your videos recently on it, so... That's cool. For me, WCS, like when I sat down and watched the finals, and I shit you not when I say I watched just about every single match. I think I actually did watch every single match except for the grand final, which I then later watched in VOD. I can tell you that I have very high expectations for StarCraft, so when I have my criticisms, I understand that perhaps to a certain level they're impossible to actually achieve, but I don't think that that's a bad thing. I would always argue that people who have a position of like being able to be vocal about these kind of things should be critical as opposed to like overly optimistic and accepting of everything they see. Within reason, obviously. I think you should also give credit where credit's due, so I'll try to do that to the best of my ability, but that's all my like my disclaimer. I think the WCS Grand Finals for this season was absolute shit. I think it was shit across the board. I think it was terrible. And I think it was so consistently bad in so many different areas that it's really hard to describe, but I'll try. So I start off by turning on these streams, and I open up all 4 streams, the 2 OGN, the 2 GOM, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird, this is different, but let's give them a chance. I want to see what they're going with this. What ended up happening for the first few series was 3 of the games on 3 out of the 4, like three of the same games on 3 out of the 4 streams, and then a random other game on 1 stream. And that's just weird. It was bad. And it was obviously like a political thing. It was very much so GOM and OGN trying to be brought to the same table by Blizzard. So, okay, that's an initial effort, but that's just bad for the tournament. And it felt bad for the tournament. It felt like there was no cohesion. It didn't feel like I was watching 4 streams for 1 tournament. It felt like I was watching, which I was, 2 productions of 1 tournament that ended up like mitigating the effect. It wasn't exciting. And I'll tell you what, you know, I know that there's a lot of things going on behind scenes, but again, as just an observer that's not sitting in the GOM studios, having Khaldor and Wolf on an empty stage and then behind them, ridiculously, is the #1 commentator sitting on an empty fucking stage by himself, is like a high school parody of something that otherwise should have been very important. And again, I understand that GOM was probably not receiving money for this or whatever, so this is them doing something, whereas in alternate other places they're doing nothing. But this looked ridiculous. Then I go to the OGN stream. Okay, they dress ridiculously. I made my jokes. No need to talk about that. But as far as for the non-Korean stream, there was no hosts, and then there was this like throw-together Apollo Day 9 lounge, which was later joined by...
Cho.
Yes, the LOL guy who speaks very good English. But I mean, he was great. He was very funny. He was
awesome,
engaging.
yeah.
He was
If
awesome.
anything, I
sure.
think he kept that stream interesting and together.
Yep. And
saved it.
this would be where I'd say so say we all, except for me, because there's a lot of people that agreed with you. But the bottom line for me, too, is that didn't feel like a big production. I didn't feel like I was watching a big major tournament. I felt like I was watching any other OGN production plus this thrown-together lounge which had misused sound, which, okay, you know, tech problems happen at all tournaments, so that's not the deal-breaker for me. The deal-breaker for me was that we were having Apollo and Day 9 dicking around in a unsupervised lounge, and that seems like the most gross misuse of two of the greatest talents in our scene that I've ever seen. Like, they were talking about geese and ducks, and they were beatboxing, and they didn't know what the fuck to do because they had no direction, no producer, no anything. And I don't blame those guys, like Dan, or not Dan, excuse me, but Sean and Sean. They're entertainers. They'll improvise. They'll do the best they can. And sure, some StarCraft was talked about. A lot of StarCraft was talked about. And again, I know that I'm not like everyone else. There are people that really enjoy goofing around. You can look no further than when I host DreamHack. I do my fair share of goofing around as well. But I guess what really disappoints me as a theme is that WCS, to me, is supposed to be this holy grail. You grabbed MLG, ESL, GOM, and OGN, and you threw them at a table with a gun to their head and said, you're going to start doing this because we have this better image. And then this is your mecca? Like, this is your final? This is the culmination of those efforts? They fell really, really short. And again, I've been talking a long time, and I have so much more to say, but I just want to open up the space to other people because I don't want to hog it too much.
I want to talk about that couch a little bit, and that received a lot of good feedback on Reddit. But the problem that people are not seeing is, like, you only watch that couch if you are on Reddit or on Team Liquid. Nobody else tunes into that because everyone else is on the mainstream. So as much as the hardcore esports fan says, like, okay, this is something that I really enjoyed, where I had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun, what everyone else, these, especially the casuals that we want to attract and that now tune in because Blizzard is suddenly advertising events like this within the client, and they jump to the WCS like website and then into the stream. They only seen the mainstream, and the mainstream production was shit. It was horrible. I can do a better stream at home. And
Yeah.
that, well, yeah, the downtime is one of the things. And at first, I really thought, okay, I've heard so much about OGN being like a TV production, so they need to have the downtime for some reason. And then the first thing I hear is like, okay, day one when we had the group stage and we had like a 20-minute break after 2 games, every single time when they showed something on TV, it was League of Legends instead of StarCraft 2. So this is like the poorest excuse ever. Then you have no score overlay, you have no new user interface. And this is just completely inexcusable. Setting up the new user interface, if you go for one of the standard ones, is a process that takes you literally 2 minutes. It's a 3-step process that everyone can accomplish within 2 minutes. And them not having that, I cannot understand it at all. If you're used to a production, the in-game production that is, of MLG, of ComTV, or of Turtle Entertainment, of the ESL, and then suddenly you see this in the finals of the event, you're like, what? What just happened?
And I'll tell you the
hold
word
on. I want to go back. Khaldor, make sure, can you say what you said in your video of why they were using that? Because you said this in the YouTube video.
Well, that's something that I mean, this is more of a rumor. The sad thing is I heard that from several people, not only from one person. I heard that from like 3 or 4 different people that are not really connected with. And they said one of the reasons why the user interface was being used, of course, never going to be an official reason, is that GOM used it first. And being in Korea for quite some time, I hope it's not true, but I can actually see it being true. And it's something that's really sad. This is like something like, okay, we had it first, so you guys can't use it unless you modify it in a way that you can say you improved it in any way. And that is like a very Korean thing, the whole losing face and pride stuff.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I think one of the things, like one of the words that leaps out at me, and this is to build a little bit on Khaldor's point, is the word minimalist. Like, if we take this weekend in a vacuum and it's just a tournament, it's pretty good. They brought in good talent. Monte Cristo and Doa, a great team of guys. We had Khaldor and Wolf, 2 of the best. We had Artosis providing solo commentary, which is a nice change-up. He's got a lot of analysis to give. It was very engaging. I found it interesting. There were some mix-ups there as well, too. Artosis with Khaldor. I mean, that's nice. Like, the commentating is not low level. It's not like they brought in a guy from a stream chat or something like that, and we're like, hey, here's one of the most important casting gigs there is. So it wasn't like that. You know, they did have some, like the lounge, again, like Khaldor said, very fair point, not linked to the mainstream, so a lot of people missed out on that. But for the people that watched it, there's going to be a ton of comments that said, no, I loved that. That made the tournament for me. And to those people, they're not wrong, because obviously this is subjective. So I'm glad that they provided that as well. I guess what I'm just saying, and I really want to hit on this, because this has been kind of my mantra throughout all of WCS, is I want this to be the thing where I grab VODs and I retweet the shit out of it. I post it everywhere I possibly can, because I go, yo, this is what StarCraft can do. but instead I'm having not quite the level of like jaw-dropping terror that we had at WCS China last year, but it's not too far off in different ways, because it's almost worse that this is the second time around. So this is not your BlizzCon, which is the actual grand final. I understand that. And it's not going to be like this. The fucking BlizzCon is going to have, like, Barack Obama giving the opening speech. Like, it's going to be Mike Morhaim's going to jetpack in off of a spaceship that they built on the moon. Like, it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be great. But I don't want... I think StarCraft deserves better than a WCS is everything. Like I'm getting weird like BioShock voices coming through, like join WCS now. It's your chance to play StarCraft. But then it's like this actual shit, post-apocalyptic. Like there's 4 commentators, 2 of which are making geese sound to the sound of beatboxing on an off stream that's not even linked to the main like central hub. Downtime is reaching 20-minute intervals where they're just rotating K-pop and rock songs as if they're trying to like test the human spirit to see how long you can endure that on stream.
That final, by the way, I mean, semi-final is over, and they decide that they would actually like wait 2 hours until they start the final. I was just standing there, I was like, what?
Really?
2 hours? And I just saw the stream viewers in front of me and be like, everyone, okay, like, fuck this, I'm going to bed right now.
Holy shit! I didn't watch finals live, so I didn't know that's how it went down.
No, it's like the game was over, and I actually thought that they would proceed as they did in the groups and with the quarterfinals, and would just start the next game immediately. So a few friends said like, okay, a friend wants to come over, and I'm like, hey, well, don't bother. Up to the point where they are here, the final is going to be over, and then I suddenly hear, no, there's actually going to be a 2-hour break right now.
What was the reasoning for that? Did they like wait to show it on TV, or did they say?
I don't know if they really showed it on TV on the last day, but the reasoning behind it was that they made a schedule, and this time they didn't keep the schedule on day 1 and 2, so when a game was over, they would start with the next one. But on the last day, their reasoning was that a lot of people would tune in for the finals, and because that in their opinion that was happening, so they wanted to make sure that the final would start right on top at 4 o'clock Korean Standard Time, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I mean,
it's like why follow it for that? Like, why piss off everyone that's watching your stream getting excited for the finals? That's not going to be a mirror for 2 hours.
One of the main reasons is that, as far as I know, they don't have a lot of experience with online production. They are mainly someone who caters like to TV or cater to TV for a long time. So especially when it comes to international audience, they are not very experienced with this. That's how it was explained to me, or one of the things that I personally understand. So,
I guess the question I want to ask is how much blame do we put on Blizzard for this when they probably had 0 to do with any production, rather than just giving the finals and saying like, here's the WCS, do this, or do we put blame on the 2 leagues who like ran the production? Like, who's to blame?
Well, first of all, the stream that GOM did was actually not mandatory, so that was just a stream that said, okay,
and it was not promoted by the official messaging. There was never a GOM mention, as far as I could tell.
No, it was completely like it was completely ignored. It was not announced on the Twitch event website. It was not tweeted by Blizzard about it. There was nothing on the WCS Hub website, so I was really disappointed by that, and I actually got into more than one argument over the weekend with people about that. But for me, it's just something. A lot of these things happen because we are still in the first season. I mean, Blizzard goes for a very different. I don't know too much about League of Legends, but from what I understand, what Riot does is they do kind of everything in-house. So they get everything within their own company, so the processes that they have are a little bit easier to manage.
Well, that's true for WCS, or sorry, for the American portion.
Yeah,
Europeans run by IEM, and then the Korean version is OG.
But what Blizzard does here is like...
Sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you. Go ahead, buddy.
I mean, Blizzard has a different approach. They have a lot of partners, and it's not only that they work with a partner in America and one in Europe, but they actually work with 2 in Korea, which is crazy because Korean companies are so competitive. It's like a cold war between them. And bringing them to one table is already an achievement. But at the same time, if you work with so many partners, it means that the communication, the problem that you have is not within your own company, within the divisions that you have, but it's also a matter of communication between your divisions and the partners that you're working with. So I was really disappointed with the finals. with a lot of the things, I'm really angry because I felt Blizzard should have said immediately after they saw the in-game production, should have turned around and told them, okay, listen, you do that right now and change that immediately, no excuses. But in the end, I can see that this for them is still a process. There were so many people here for Blizzard, and they took so much feedback, and they were not happy with how things went, and said, okay, we have to improve on all these things. But the major theme was we have to make sure that there is a lot better communication between partners, between the partners and us, and between our divisions to make sure that all these things are going to be fixed. So I didn't like the finals, but the weekend passed, and I had a good feeling because I saw that a lot of the people that were really deeply involved in WCS cared about it and saw that something was wrong and addressed it immediately.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah,
what do we know?
I get a lot of like I'll tell you, I speak to people at MLG. I speak to people. Well, I speak to all of them. Okay, so I think what a lot of these partners in Blizzard should actually do is get together and collectively hate on Carmack and his crew and ESL and what they're doing, because despite all the odds from what I'm hearing from every one of the other partners, including Blizzard themselves, they're all like, oh, it's really hard working with them. It's this is hard. It's our first ever. Oh, fuck. I remember ESL did their first production of WCS, and everyone looked at it and said, that's really bad. Whoa, this is terrible. What do you mean you started 2 hours early? Like, that's really bad. And then ESL sucked it up, and they fucking kicked ass for the next few weeks. They put their shit together, and they did something that I'm not seeing any of these other partners do, and they actually improved themselves tremendously. And when I see that, I now believe, for right or wrong, that power is within your MLGs, your GOMs, and your OGNs. And it's varying degrees of failure as far as I'm concerned. I know Korea is very different from Europe. I know each partner interacts very different. And again, I don't know the finer details, so maybe what I'm saying is actually impossible. But I still believe that my expectation that these partners should take accountability individually and accept the blame individually and then improve or strive to improve, I believe that is possible because ESL did that. So I look at MLG, I look at our NA finals, and I say, nope, that was shit. It's not just because you didn't have a live audience. It's not just because you're having money problems, son, or something like that. It's because you didn't give it your best effort. You did not make it a show. You did not change things. You did not innovate. You did not put forward your best foot that we have yet to see. You just strode and you treaded water as you have in other events. GOM, I understand that that's an improv stream. I understand that it's not your responsibility to broadcast that. But you had not Todd. You had Artosis, and you had Tasteless, and you had Wolfdoor telling everyone that you guys were going to stream this. So I turned into a GOM stream expecting GOM quality, and it was less than that. And then I'm getting apologetic rhetoric from them saying, like, well, we weren't supposed to do that, so you can't expect that much. Nope. GOM, you're a victim of your own success. You guys have done an amazing job in the past, so when you do a sub-awesome job, it stands out like a sore thumb. OGN, you guys are the ones with the player zoom-ins. We expected amazing broadcasts. You say you haven't done an online broadcast before, that's not your forte, then don't fucking fight so hard for the broadcast rights for the finals to the most important tournament if you can't do a completely good job about it. If you're going to do a shit job, then don't stamp your feet and demand to have that. Because what ends up happening is WCS ends up sucking ass like it did.
One of the things about the GOM production, I mean, you are not wrong, but it basically, what people criticize basically happened on day one. So it was just GOM saying we don't have the budget to go all out for like all the casters and everything. But on day two, and from the beginning, there was the plan. We had the dual casts, and we don't have the players at the studio. So we are limited in what we can do. We have to rely on a feed that we get from OGN. And I actually think that the production crew, given what they had, did a pretty decent job. Yes, it could have been better, especially with a better budget, that all of the casters would start with the groups on day one with dual casts. But that's just something that we didn't have on day one. And the reasoning behind it, from what I can say, is that which is logic to me, is like day one was for them the least important one. So they said, okay, day one we do the solo casts, and then on day two we start with normal like dual casts and go into Nick and Dan on day three. So I feel with what they had, they did a good job, but I can see why you're disappointed with it at the same time. I
totally respect that response, because what I'm hearing from you is that there are logistical reasons for why it happened, and that's totally fine. But as long as you can acknowledge the spirit of we can do better, like
Yeah.
I think, and by the way, I think everyone should have that attitude. I feel like ESL should hear anything anyone says and say we can do better, because that wasn't the perfect broadcast. It's just that unfortunately, with what everyone else did, I feel like it was the biggest improved, or the most improved. Excuse me, I do speak English, I swear. And I think because they did that, because they improved as much as they did, they look really good right now. Whereas if some of these other partners and Blizzard, like to be fair, I spoke a lot about the partners. Let's be honest with you. When I talk to each of these partners and when I hear things, Blizzard has a lot of accountability to be had as well. I'm sorry, guys. I know that's it's like the name that you're not supposed to speak too seriously. Like you can make fun of some things, but you can't say that Blizzard's doing a terrible job behind the scenes with WCS. But to be pretty frank here, WCS, if we were to rate it up until now, this is their first season final. Who the fuck gives it a B? Who the fuck gives it a C?
Dude, if I was Blizzard, I would actually just look at what happened in Korea and would be okay, guys. If you don't step up a game right away and do this without the bickering and without the kindergarten politics, I will find someone who will. And they might not have the means of doing it in the first season, but if you can't work together, I'll find someone who does the production.
Yeah, I mean,
they have a lot of they have a lot of respect for the Korean companies, and I can see why. I mean, there's a long tradition. This is still the motherland of esports. But at some point, I would not put up with that anymore. If it was my personal decision, which of course it isn't, but at some point I would put my foot down and would be like, okay, this is how it's going to be run right now, and if you can't do it, I'll find someone who will.
Yeah, I want to talk to our live audience here. Todd, what do you want to weigh in on this?
Great discussion, guys.
I'm sorry. I'm really worried.
No, that was my fault, not y'all's.
Okay.
Not y'all's.
For me, watching WCS, I watch a lot of tournaments. I also commentate in some and play in some. I think the one word I could use to describe it was a little bit awkward, because there was many streams, some of them showing the same games, just using different casting duos. And I can only wonder, why was this not a joint team effort between GOM and On Game Nets? Why was it not? Why did they have to
They could have definitely
basically
killed
split,
it there.
like,
Do you
half
want an answer?
side? Well,
Answer it. Go ahead.
I kind of know, but I know it would be a lot better if it had been a team effort. But yeah, you can tell us.
Well, thing is, it doesn't work with Korean companies, and if you view that from a Western perspective, it sounds sometimes a little bit silly, but it's already a miracle that they work together at all in hosting those seasons and having the turns, and that you get them at the table to have the compromises. But having them share the production is something that would not happen. It's an Asian company. That would be such a loss of face for the company who has to back down a little bit and go for the compromise. So it's really not going to happen. I laughed so hard when I actually saw people tweet or write on Reddit that they thought that Legend and Heaven would observe for both companies. That would never ever happen, because OGN wouldn't go with that. They would be like, there's no way. I completely agree with you, by the way. From a Western perspective, I would love it to have both of them doing the production together and just trying to share
It would be
the
sick.
responsibility for that. It could be crazy good, but I just don't see that happening, not even in years. Maybe if Blizzard really says okay, you have to, or we'll cut both of you off, but to be quite frank, I can never see that happen. There's just too much going on between them, too much bad blood, and too much politics involved. But I agree with you, I would love it.
Khaldor, I want to ask.
Sorry.
Todd, go, Todd. No, you haven't spoken. I'm sorry.
It was a bit weird for me, like I said, because when I came online, I saw there was 4 streams and 4 casting duo that I liked. So I was like, why do I got to pick? I understand if there will be 2 streams and 2 casting duo being used. In Arthosys' case, Half and Archon. But
Yeah.
why didn't Day9 and Apollo cast games from behind the desk? Why were they on the couch too? I didn't really understand that either. In the end, I guess I kind of liked it, listening to their banter and stuff, but it wasn't a proper cast like what GOM did. And I don't know, they were dressed funny. And this Chobra guy, by the way, was pretty awesome. And he really made it even more enjoyable. But just looking at the whole thing, for myself, or even trying to put myself into the shoes of anybody who likes to watch StarCraft, like, I wonder what did these people think? You come online on Team Liquid, you have 4 streams, you open them, and then some of them are showing the same games, and it's just
It was beyond
all the
confusing.
casting duos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all the casting duos that you like to watch, but even listening to 2 casts at the same time, that doesn't work. So you have to pick just one out of the 4 streams, and yeah, I don't know. It was just super weird.
The worst part too is when it started, the second OGN stream had Apollo and Day 9 talking to a camera, but you had the audio from stream 1 for like 3 or 4 hours, and it's like, I mean, I would hope that we were actually past that by now. That shouldn't be happening, especially on this stage, for something that's supposed to be a season 1 final. But it did get fixed. Khaldor, I want to ask you though, and I think you've said this multiple times, but just to reiterate, the reason that so many people the reason that the casters, I'm trying not to put words in your mouth, were who they were was because of budget, right? GOM did not have the amount of budget that was needed to do a lot more things. Is that correct statement?
For the GOM stream, right?
For the GOM stream, yeah.
From what I know, yeah, it was a small budget production. It was a stream that was mandatory, and that doesn't mean that I don't want to say that, okay, we could have skipped it, but it's like, if that is a stream that is actually like, that Blizzard gives an extra budget, I think that's happening. I don't really know, but from what I know, this was just a small budget production. That's why they went and said, okay, on day 1 we will only have solo casts. And Wolf and I then decided to make it a dual cast anyways, and just basically one of us was always broadcasting without getting paid for it. We already did that for Code A back in the Mukdong studio when we had these weird offline, not offline, but these pre-shows or the early groups. So that was like a personal decision, so that it was a better quality also for the viewers, and it's a little bit easier to dual cast and solo cast if you have like a 6-hour group. But yeah, that was the reasoning, and then in day number 2 they would go for the teams again.
I guess my question, and I don't believe you to have an answer for this, I don't think you should have an answer for this, is like, why the fuck did they even have a GOM stream then in the first place? If they couldn't like do it right, then why do it at all? I mean, was it purely politics, speculation? Like, the only reason that GOM was live is because OGN was live, and they didn't want OGN to be live without them being live? Like, I don't understand why.
If you have the chance to broadcast the finals, why wouldn't you do it? And the thing is, our numbers were actually like really good. Our numbers exceeded my expectations by a lot, especially since there was no advertisement by Blizzard whatsoever. Nothing in the client, nothing on the WCS portal, nothing on Twitter or anywhere else, or on the Twitch event page. So I was blown away by the numbers that we had this weekend. I expected much less.
Khaldor, with all respect, you're being a bit of a moving target, because he's saying, if you're going to give excuses and reasoning for why you can't do a well-produced stream, then why would you cite good numbers?
Like, and I wasn't looking for an answer from you, Khaldor. I was just saying that. I don't want you to like represent GOM on here.
Why do you set up the stream? And I said, why wouldn't you? It's WCS finals.
Okay.
If I had the chance to set up that stream at home, I would do it. So for GOM, this is extra exposure for the commentators. It's people that have been seeing the entire season in the GSL studio. Code S and Code A were casted by Wolf and myself, and of course Tastosis. So why not go then all the way and also have the production for the finals if you can do it? You get a feed from OGN. You do the best you can work with. I would do that as well.
Well, I think you asked the question, why wouldn't you? I think the answer is what people are... I mean, it's not like people are in uproar about GOM, and nor do I think that they should be. I'm saying that I don't think you get to give excuses to remove yourself from the overall bad product of the final WCS. Like, if GOM's going to say, well, we got good numbers, and we just threw it together, and if we're going to do that to get good numbers, then fine, we'll do that. That's fine, but then you're going to be held under fire for the criticism of, well, it was a shitty stream. And yeah, you got good numbers because you had the best commentators. And you should. Like, I'm not saying people shouldn't have listened to it, but it was really weird looking at a miniature Artosis sitting between Khaldor and Wolf on an empty stage. And you say day 1, but it got... I mean, what are the huge improvements that you'd say that...
okay, so you actually think that if GOM wouldn't have provided a stream at all, that would have been better?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the stream that was provided deserves criticism. That is what I'm saying.
And again, as a side stream with no players in the studio, what exactly do you expect? From what you say and what you criticize, you would have been happy if on day one we had like 2 casting teams casting. The thing is, the only way that is actually working in our studio, because the groups are at the same time, is if 2 of the casters would dodge and go into one of our mini studios that are up on the 3rd floor instead of the 2nd. Then we don't have the 2nd casting team behind the first one. That's the only thing you can have. But then the production is also going to be a little bit worse because it's a small studio. So that's the only thing that could have been done better on day number 1. And day number 1, I feel, is the only day that you really criticize, because starting with day 2, we had 1 stream and 2 casters, and we were working with the feeds that we get.
I guess I should be more thorough, because I have only brought up the example of the ridiculous miniature Artosis. But I guess if we're going to go into this realm, I guess what I'm talking about is I have very high expectations for the WCS finals, and I have very high expectations for everyone that's a part of it. So when GOM attaches, the best example I can give, because of the low productive stream, is like a little suckerfish on a whale. Like when they attach onto it, my expectations for that whale, WCS, transfer to GOM as well. So I hear all the reasons. I hear you saying, would it be better if we weren't there? The answer is no. I will always take an Artosis commentary, even if he's doing it with a gigantic afro sitting on top of a llama, like snorting cocaine. I don't know. I think that would be a great stream anyways. But when I see GOM attached to that, and then they're like, well, we couldn't do anything good because we didn't have players there and we weren't paid, so it was low budget. I get that. But my expectations, which perhaps are impossibly high for WCS, would be then, you know what you do? You have Tasteless on a interview desk, something GOM's never done, and he's interviewing people that you pre-planned set up. You have video interviews that you called ahead because you knew you were doing this for weeks ahead, pre-broadcast. You have Artosis and Khaldor casting while Wolf's on an analysis screen talking about things between games. You put on a better show than OGN does for less money, and you're fucking blowing brains out. But because they didn't do that, because they're like, well, we don't have players, and we have an empty studio, and we're not going to get creative on this because we're not getting paid for it, I then look at that and I say, well, that's a stream that I was expecting this, I got this, and the reasoning you're giving is this, and that's fine, but you're going to be held to the higher esteem. And you should. You should not make these arguments and have people go, you're right, I should expect that from GOM.
Well, to be quite frank with you, I disagree. This was not the mainstream, and what you expect is basically a huge investment. And if you are not even having an audience at the studio because you're well aware that you are a side stream, you can only work with so much. That's my personal opinion. I get that you are disappointed from what you expected. That's completely okay. I understand that. But I feel for GOM, the only alternative would have been either to invest like twice the amount that they already did for a stream that they always knew would be the side stream. And I actually suspect that they knew that there was like nearly no advertisement for it because of the politics that we had in Korea. Or the other alternative would have been to have no stream at all. So I see where you're coming from, but I disagree with your conclusion.
And also, we don't really mention this, but GOM TV and OnGameNet, they are TV channels. GOM TV, internet TV channel, I believe, and OnGameNet, maybe cable. They probably focused a lot on the Korean stream side of things.
Oh, so we had no Korean stream.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was only foreign.
That was another thing. Like, we didn't even have a Korean stream. That stream was only to give something else to the international audience. I thought that was clear. Sorry for that. We only had the international commentators there.
Oh, okay, that's a bit weird. I didn't think that was going to be the case. But okay, about OnGameNet then, do you know if like the production for their Korean stream was a lot different than
I know that their in-game production was a little bit better. They had, for example, at least an overlay for the scores in-game. So the Korean stream for them was once again the priority, which is also something that I can't really get behind, because I don't see ESL doing a German stream as the main stream and having the English one as a follow stream. So in every other region and country, the dominating stream is always the English one, and then the local languages are the second streams, except for Korea. So I personally don't agree with that. Being it executed by GOM or OGN, it's something that I find a little bit weird given the environment that we have in StarCraft 2 these days. But the fact of the matter is that right now in Korea, the English stream always follows the Korean stream, and therefore the production of the Korean stream is usually better.
Okay. Jeff, did you watch the WCS Europe round of 32 and then round of 16? Because to kind of identify this as what happened here, I feel like what happened with the WCS here with Com TV was the round of 32 of WCS Europe. It was like much lower budget that round of 16 in just a studio with me and Kailaris casting, and Kailaris was doing the sound mixing while observing the game and casting with me.
I don't even know that's possible.
I don't even know
So
if
like,
that's possible, yeah.
yeah, obviously the production wasn't the same as later on for the round of 16 with an entire crew, basically cameras everywhere, players there, an audience, and we don't really know exactly with GomTV how many persons they are there because Khaldor talks about budget. I imagine this guy in the back room, like he's alone, he's like doing everything. The camera work, he's rushing back to the room, putting the cameras on them, and then like synchronizing with the feed. So it's very hard for us to imagine. So maybe Khaldor, you know more about this? Like, what was it like?
How many people were on the production team, Khaldor?
Well, on day 1 and 2, wait a second. I don't know for the third day. I was in the studio for the semifinals and the finals. For the first day, we had more production people there because we had two streams at the same time. On the second day, we had like one cast downstairs. Then we had to move because the studio is actually being used for more than only StarCraft. And with the schedule that WCS had, we had to move to one of the upper studios where we then had the third and the fourth group. And there we had a production team in one of the smaller studios of maybe 3 people that were there. But that was for the last 2, so their focus was really on the last day and on the first day for the time that we could be in the main studio.
So total number of production for day 1, how many people were there, including casters?
I don't know day 1 because the thing is like they are on different floors. So on day 1, I didn't see anyone from production. I just talked to them with a microphone. I only had like one production girl that we had there that would tell us how long we had a break and would give us the cues and stuff like that. I don't know how many people were upstairs, but I expect that we had quite a few of them there.
Okay.
Because they had to manage 2 streams and all that.
Sure.
But on the other hand, we didn't have the audience, so the light show is not happening. We don't have a lot of the camera plans, but they had a cameraman at the studio as well who did a few of the shots of the commentators and later on. But yeah, it was of course like, oh.
Jeff? I think just one last attempt because I hear everything everyone's saying, and
then we'll move on after this. I promise. I promise.
I guess I will try to succinctly put my point as basically, I think we would all agree that the WCS production was lackluster. My charge and my point is that I would like it if each individual component, because WCS is not a single entity, it is a collection of parts. We all know that. We call them partners, and they're under the umbrella of Blizzard, and that is WCS. I feel like every time we talk about this, the respective people from those different parts are like, well, we couldn't do anything better because such and such, or, well, it's not our fault, such and such was to blame. What I would like to hear, and what I felt like ESL, at least what they embodied and broadcasted out to us, was, you're right, we fucked up, that was bad, we should improve on that. And then they did do it. And it's not going to be like they turned, like the term that's going around right now that I really like is they polished a turd or whatever, which is not actually, I just wanted to say that, actually it doesn't really fit with what I'm trying to say, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to be able to say, hey, look, GOM, this was an opportunity to innovate and to improve and to be a shining star amidst other people that are not. And I don't expect Khaldor to agree and be like, yeah, GOM's shit. I'm not going to hear that from him. But I would like to hear people from the individual parts go, you know what? We did what we could with what we had, but I hear you because I think we could have done better, and we should do better, and we should strive to do better. And if everyone can agree that they should do better, then this WCS product will get better. But if everyone spends their time saying we did the best we could with what we had, we weren't given enough, and you know it was a weekend and World of Tanks was going on at the same time, then it's going to continue to suck ass, and that's a sad day.
Khaldor, you can respond, but we're moving on after this.
I don't think I said everything already earlier. I would love if we could do all that, but I think it's very unrealistic with the setup that was there and with what Blizzard did. The mainstream was OGN, So the responsibility there is, in my opinion, for OGN. The stream that we provided is for fans that want to see the casting tours that they had during the season. And, well, if I say we work with what we had, I'm not talking only about money. If you have an empty studio and not even the players there, there's only so little you can do. There's nothing else. Yeah.
Todd, you want to weigh in with any final thoughts?
I do agree with both here. Khaldor, they didn't have as many people helping with this as there usually is probably, and they didn't have players there. But I do also agree with Jeff, and I think what made WCS Europe so good was that everybody always tried to improve a lot as well. Like Carmack, Red Eye, these guys, they're always looking for ways to make the show even better. And that's why, like, the first show was actually, I'm tempted to say bad, like, I shouldn't say that, but, like, it wasn't nearly as good, like, as all the next shows. Like, from one show to another, we always did better. We started doing player statements where they were, like, taunting each other. It was hilarious. We made jokes about it. We started doing predictions. Total Biscuits, Nick Lentz, all these guys, they gave us their predictions. And we had something else to talk about, so we made it more entertaining. And then show after show, we added new things. And after every show, we had debriefings, I guess you could call it, where we talked about what to improve, not just casting-wise with me and Kyle Harris, but everything, the production, things to add that will be fun. And that's why, by the end of WCS Europe, I thought the show was really, really entertaining. I was there, and I was really entertained as well, just watching the games and listening to all the segments, watching the small interviews they did before. So I do agree that lots of the WCS shows, Europe, all of the WCS should try and keep on improving every single time with more content and stuff like that.
All right. I guess final thoughts on this. It's not really a thought. I just want to show everyone the VOD page that is available. And I think this kind of sums up this weekend when your VOD page is all text on the official WCS Battle.net page, linking to Twitch VODs.
You're so lame, JP.
It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. Could have done a little bit better there. And no mention, of course, of GOM. But
I don't know if you've been on JP's YouTube, but the VODs are much better listed than this.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then link.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. That about does it for the WCS talk. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about DreamHack Summer going on this weekend, talking about David Kim's words on Hellbats, as well as some other small announcement coming out of the world of StarCraft. So be right back. Do not go anywhere. More StarCraft 2 and more State of the Game coming up right after this.